Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining today's Wellness Wednesday webinar. And this month it is on the M word, which people do tend to shy away from talking about. But not today. We will be talking all about the menopause. So, what it is, some lifestyle recommendations to help, and looking at what support is available for women going through that phase of life. It is important to note that menopause isn't just something that women should know about. Men should also be aware of it too, so that they can support colleagues, friends, and family members as well. So let's start with some of the stats. So 51 is the average age that women reach the menopause, with 1 in 100 people starting before the age of 40 years. So the age can really vary massively, but it is important to be aware around this age, women may start to experience the menopause and some of the symptoms linked with it. 3 in 4 women experience menopause symptoms. Now, this can vary massively between individuals. Not all women will experience the same. And again, our symptoms can change throughout the menopausal phase of our lives. 1 in 4 women experience serious symptoms. 2 in 5 women said that their menopause symptoms had been worse than they had expected. And this may actually be because women who are now going through the menopause didn't have those open environments growing up to be able to talk about this topic and express the symptoms associated with it, which obviously hoping now we're taking a step in the right direction and raising the awareness and the importance to talk about it. And finally, 4 in 5 women of menopausal age are in the workplace. It's really important that we talk about it. A high percentage of women are working, so we need to be raising awareness for those who are around us. So, what is the menopause? The menopause is when the ovaries no longer release an egg. This is due to a gradual fall in the hormone estrogen, and our periods become less frequent, and over time they completely stop. Now, this usually happens between the ages of 45 and 55. As highlighted on the previous slide, it can happen before or after that time frame. So what this means is for 10 plus years of a woman's life, we do need to be mindful and start looking out and watching out for some of those menopausal symptoms. It's not just age that can determine when we hit the menopause, however. It can happen for other reasons, such as surgery to remove the ovaries or the uterus. Cancer treatments like chemotherapy may bring it on earlier, or genetic reasons can also determine when you'll start your menopause. So there is a common misconception that menopause occurs following the absence of one period, but actually menopause officially starts 12 months without our usual period. The time before this, when we start to experience menopausal symptoms and a decline in our periods, is known as perimenopause. So it's good to be aware there are different stages of that we will be going through, and it can take different amounts of time as well. So let's look at the symptoms. So when it comes to the symptoms of the menopause, it is important to remember that everybody is different. Some may have numerous symptoms, while others may be very lucky and have very few or none. And these symptoms can have a huge impact on our life, our relationships, and our work too. So it's important to be aware of them. Some of the most common ones include changes to your period, so irregular, and then they will eventually stop. We may experience some mental health symptoms, so changes to our mood, feeling quite low, depressed, increased chance of anxiety, also experience things such as memory and concentration problems, brain fog, which is very common as well. We can also experience some physical symptoms, so perhaps ones that we're more likely to link with menopause. So those include hot flushes. So when you have sudden feelings of hot or cold in your face, neck, chest, and it can make you feel quite dizzy. Difficulty sleeping, which may be as a result of night sweats and can make you feel more tired and irritable and link back to those mental health symptoms. Palpitations, so when your heartbeat becomes suddenly noticeable as well. and many more. So skin changes, UTIs, changes in our weight and body shape as well. Now, our symptoms can last for months or for years, and it will change over time. So, for example, when you first reach the menopause, you may experience lots of hot flushes and sweats. They may then reduce, but you may be faced with low mood and anxieties. They can change over time. And this is a quote from somebody that some days you may feel fantastic, while others you may feel like you are in somebody else's body. So it really can vary on a day-to-day basis as well for an individual. So it's just being aware of that. So, what are some of the other changes that we experience when we go through the menopause? So, when I speak to many women at events such as health fairs, I am often confronted with the fact that women going through the menopause tend to gain weight, and that's specifically around the middle or our stomach. And this may be despite leading the healthy lifestyle and exercising as they always have done. And it can leave women feeling very frustrated and angry as to why is it actually happening. So as we age, our metabolism may slow down by around 10%. So what this means is that we're not able to burn as many calories in the same period of time as we would have done beforehand. And also we see a decrease in muscle mass, and muscles will burn more calories compared to other types of tissues within our body. And this is completely natural, and it can happen to everybody who is aging, for both men and women. It just happens, unfortunately, at the same time as women go through the menopause. And that's why it's often linked with menopause and an increase in weight. But actually, weight gain is not a direct effect of menopause. We are still able to maintain our weight and lose weight if we do want to. But due to these changes, when we age, it is important we try and reduce the amount that we eat and do more activity, because otherwise we will see that weight gain. And this increase in weight can lead to risk of heart attacks, strokes, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and some cancers. But it is important to remember that weight gain is not inevitable. We are at an increased risk of it because of these changes, but weight loss or maintenance is possible if we make appropriate changes. But it can leave us feeling and wondering and asking ourselves some questions, and they may include around our diet. So, is there a miracle online diet that I can have? Should I be cutting out certain foods? Do I need to supplement? And also questions about our overall health and well-being. So, should I stay out the sun to avoid hot flushes and so on? And hopefully today I'm going to be able to answer some of those for you. So firstly, let's start by debunking any myths around the need to change our diet, that we need to be perhaps trying a miracle diet, which we've read online, or cutting out certain foods, which we should all be swayed away from believing. So the guidance for women going through the menopause is to continue to follow Public Health UK guidelines, and that is to obtain a healthy and balanced diet by following the Eat Well guide. So this is the Eat Well guide. It has 5 different food groups that we need to consume in the correct proportion. So as we can see, the yellow group is one of the largest or biggest food groups, and those are our starchy carbohydrates. So we do want to base meals around starchy carbohydrates. Within that as well, we want to be going for whole grain varieties where possible to get that 30 grams of fibre per day, which is really important for our health, particularly our gut health. The green section is our fruits and vegetables, and we should be aiming for at least 5 a day, if not more. Other guidance around the Eat Well guide is to opt for lower saturated fat foods, include a variety of protein, and eat 2 portions of fish per week, one which should be oily, which I'll come on to talk about in a little bit more detail in a moment, and to also reduce salt and sugar within our diet. So next up, we move on to talk about menopause and osteoporosis. If going through the menopause is not already enough, most women post-menopause are more likely to get osteoporosis. And this is because they lose bone mass more rapidly due to the changes in hormones. And osteoporosis is a health condition that weakens bones, making them fragile and more likely to break. And you can see that here. When women go through the menopause, both men and women will see a decline in their bone mass, but for women, it unfortunately is slightly more significant, and therefore we're at that increased risk of osteoporosis or bone problems because of that drop in estrogen. However, there are lifestyle considerations that we can take on board, and that is to, first of all, include 2 to 3 portions of calcium-rich foods each day. So dairy products are an excellent source of calcium, which is really important for our bone health. They also contain phosphorus and protein, which are also linked to good bone health. If you're not able to consume dairy for whatever reason, whether it's a dietary preference or perhaps you're lactose intolerant, you can still get calcium from other sources. So fortified plant milks, yogurts, cheese, and breakfast cereals. And what that means is that calcium and often vitamin D has been added to them to ensure you're not missing out on those nutrients, and you can look at labels to make sure that they're on there. You can also things such as tofu or small fish with their bones in. Vegetables such as kale and broccoli also are a good source of calcium. If you do, however, struggle with consuming enough calcium from food and from the diet, then it would be recommended to provide yourself with a supplement of calcium too. Next up, we look at vitamin D. So vitamin D plays a really important role in calcium absorption. So it's fantastic if we eat loads of items with calcium in, but if we not get enough vitamin D, then it's not going to be beneficial for us. So we can get vitamin D from sunlight. So do try and expose your skin to a safe amount of sun in the summer months. And throughout the winter and autumn months, try and supplement 10 micrograms of vitamin D per day, and that's guidance across the whole of the population. It's also recommended to exercise regularly. So in particular for our bone health, try and do some weight-bearing activities. So this can include walking, running, or dancing. So where your feet and your legs support the weight of you. And this encourages bone to be deposited and maintained, or encourages us to maintain bone mass. And finally, it's also recommended to stop smoking and limit or minimize the amount of alcohol we're consuming to support good bone health too. So now we move on to menopause and cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease is any disease which affects your heart and blood vessels. So for example, strokes, heart attacks, atherosclerosis, angina, and so on. And the reason why women going through the menopause again may see an increased risk of cardiovascular disease is because of that decline in that hormone estrogen. So estrogen has protective effects for our health, cardioprotective effects, to maintain good heart health. And obviously with that drop, we are at therefore an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. So what can you do to try and protect against this? So you may want to try and consume a Mediterranean diet, which is rich in fruits and vegetables, contains oily fish, which is a fantastic source of omega-3 fatty acids, which is really important for our heart health. Consumption of whole grains, beans and pulses such as lentils. Try and have a moderate amount of meat and low fat dairy, and also try and reduce saturated fats, salts and sugars, which may have a detrimental effect on our heart health. It's also really important that we do regular exercise. So activity is so important, and actually may alleviate some other common symptoms of menopause. So for example, exercise can keep our joints lubricated to reduce joint pain. It can enhance our mood as we release those happy hormones. It's also beneficial, obviously, in reducing cardiovascular disease too. So next, menopause and the hot flushes. So hot flushes are very common symptoms of the menopause. So now we're going to be looking at what we can try and do to minimize the impacts of this. So our diet, we can consume plant estrogens. So when we go through the menopause, as I've repeatedly said, we experience a drop in estrogen. And there are certain foods which have estrogen-like effects, such as soy products, tofu, linseeds, and so on. And some studies have shown that if these foods are consumed several times a day over a few months to allow yourself to see any possible changes, it can relieve these menopausal symptoms. However, it's not a miracle cure and it may not be beneficial for everybody. It may not work for everybody. And actually, as you can imagine, it can be a huge change to your diet. If you don't already consume these types of foods, to then try and get them in several times a day may not actually work for you, may not be sustainable. But there is research to suggest that these can be beneficial for some individuals. Also in our diet, we want to try and avoid or reduce any potential triggers. For example, the consumption of spicy foods, caffeine, hot drinks, and alcohol. And I'm sure even those who aren't going through the menopause can appreciate that these foods and drinks can just make us feel a little bit hotter and can obviously bring on those hot flushes within the menopause. Other lifestyle habits to try and minimise hot flushes include stopping smoking, wearing light clothing and keeping your bedroom cool at night, take a cool shower or use a fan, and to lose weight if you are overweight or obese too. Next, we move on to some of the lesser discussed issues of the menopause, and that is sleep and needing to go to the toilet more frequently and more urgently. So many women experience changes in their sleeping patterns and perhaps getting less sleep than they usually would during this stage of life. And this can be due to night sweats or needing to go to the toilet. It is important that we try our very hardest to get a good night's sleep, as actually lack of sleep can lead to a very vicious cycle and make some of our menopausal symptoms a lot worse. Can you imagine if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to have a low mood, increased risk of anxiety, depression, lack concentration the next day, and you just sort of get yourself in a very vicious cycle. So you may wish to try and get obviously plenty of rest by keeping to a regular routine. Doing exercise regularly can help us to sleep better as well, as our body's working hard. It's going to feel that need to repair and replenish and sleep during the night. Do relaxing things, so this could be yoga, tai chi, or meditation, or do a hobby which you enjoy. Try and reduce stress, so find something that works for you so you don't get flustered and stressed and actually making us feel a lot worse, getting the flap and getting very hot and increasing hot flushes. And also eat well. So what we eat can affect our sleep, and we have done previous webinars on the effect of food, diet and sleep, so you may wish to go back and watch one of those on our We Are ESS YouTube channel. And then another factor which affects our sleep is needing to go to the toilet more frequently. And actually, 40% of women over the age of 40 years experience nocturia, which is when we need to get up and go to the toilet more than twice within a night. So it's not uncommon. It's probably not something we all speak about as open, because it's perhaps one of the more embarrassing symptoms or side effects of menopause, but it's not uncommon. And unfortunately, with this, it does leave many women not drinking enough to try and prevent themselves needing to go. But I just want to emphasize the importance that we do need to drink enough throughout the day. We have the same guidance as the general population, and we should be aiming for 2 litres of fluid per day. And actually, dehydration again is linked with many of our other menopausal symptoms and making it worse, such as an increased risk of urinary tract infections, so UTIs, which again are less often a less spoken about topic and conversation related to the menopause. Just like to put this on there as well. I went to a meeting yesterday and I found it absolutely fantastic. It was actually all around the menopause, and they highlighted this video that Elaine Miller did at a women's festival, and it's all about incontinence in women during the menopause, and it is absolutely fantastic. And if you just fancy a bit of a laugh as well, I would recommend going and watching that as well. So there are changes and there are things that we can implement into our lifestyle to try and help us through the menopause. However, sometimes and often actually it's not always enough, which is why further treatment is often used for this. And the main medicine is hormone replacement therapy, so HRT, and I'm sure women will have heard of this as well, and perhaps even men. So this often uses estrogen and sometimes progesterone to replace what your body is used to having, so replacing those hormones to what it was beforehand. So this is the most common as well. If you choose that HRT is not for you, it is good, however, to know that there are other options. So obviously I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, so I won't go into any detail on these, but it's sometimes good to know there are other things available for you to try if it just doesn't work for you the first time with the HRT. So do go and talk to your GP to discuss your options and potential risks before opting for any of these treatments. It's important to remember it is something that we should be seeking medical advice for going through the menopause. And finally, what support is available? So first of all, it's extremely important to talk about the M word, so the menopause. It's important to remember that you are not alone. Every woman at some point in their lives will experience it. Yes, we will experience it in completely different ways, but it's always good to share and communicate with others. And sometimes the best support can be from our peers, and just by having open conversations and discussing issues can be really beneficial. So that's the main point of support and advice that obviously I would give to any women going through the menopause. Also, remember that your GP is there to support you and guide you through the options which are available for you. It is a medical condition, so do seek advice. Your workplace should also have a menopause policy, so we do across Compass Group, which can be found on the L&D portal under policies and procedures. So do just make sure, go and check what's on there, know what processes are in place for when you hit that or going through that stage of life. There's also lots of online support and further reading and information available through the NHS website, Health Talk, which has videos of women talking about living with menopause and what's helped them, and loads of different charities which can provide lots of information and groups as well. So those are highlighted on the screens: the Women's Health Concern, British Menopause Society, Menopause Charity, and so on. And I'd just like to finish my webinar today by making people aware of the Let's Chat group, which was founded by some of our own colleagues within ESS. And it is a group who meet online once a month to share the good, the bad, and often the ugly. But they laugh, they cry, but best of all, they realise that they're not alone and that somebody is listening. So it's really nice, again, to have that support network, knowing other people are going through it, and just the ability to talk and open up, which is really important, and we know is important for our mental health and other reasons as well. So if you are interested in becoming a member and joining those online chats each month, do get in contact with us, and we'll be able to forward your details on to the organiser and get you added in and joined too. And on that, thank you very much for listening. If you do have any questions, if you want to drop them into our ess.wellness@compass-group.co.uk inbox, we'll be more than happy to answer those. Again, if anyone would like to join the Let's Chat group, we'll deal with those as they come in as well. And if you would like to share this with anybody else or would like to go back for further information, watch in your own time, it will be uploaded onto our We Are ESS YouTube channel, so you can go back and catch up. But thank you very much. Hopefully, obviously, it's helpful, really raising the awareness that we need to talk about menopause, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.